I wanted to show you guys another classification of EVP that I consider to be in existence. I had a prior video where I went over a reversed EVP, where sometimes you get gibberish and you reverse it and you get a pretty intelligent response. Well, today we're going to go over transformative EVP. So this type of EVP I'm going to show you was actually captured at a private Bellbrook Business. I'm not going to give the name, but I'll give you a little bit of history about it. It's an older home. We found that the history of the place was actually that it was part of the Underground Railroad. So there was a lot of in and out. We've been to the place numerous times, and each time we find that the voices there from the spirits are some of the more captivating voices I've ever found. I'm actually going to be releasing a video with some of the evidence from my first investigation there from years ago. But we've found some things there that are just amazing. One of our investigators that I was working with at the time years ago got an EVP of an old Southern woman saying, "I'm going to need you to help me." Very clear vocal inflection. You could hear the accent in her voice. You could almost hear the air going into her lungs. It was such a good EVP. So it was only natural that I catch this kind of EVP there at a later date, which also showed me that the activity at this place was pretty consistent.
Could you give us a name?
So to explain transformative EVP, it seems like a loose term. It's one that I actually use to explain the phenomenon. It's not your normal EVP. What I consider to be your normal kind of basic EVP are those EVPs or those voices that are formed off of white noise or the internal electronic noise of like your recorder or something in a room. It could be the low hum of like a ventilation system going. Just numerous different things, but basically your typical EVP is formed from white noise, electronic noise. So transformative EVPs are built off of a different audio source than your standard EVP. Like I mentioned before, your standard EVP is typically built off of white noise, the electronic noise from your recorder or ambient noise from the room. But these transformative EVPs are built off of long, distinct, audible sounds. And when I say long, I don't mean like 10 seconds long. Typically, they're just 2-3 seconds long, but they stand out from your typical white noise. They could be the slow drag of a chair across the floor, an investigator's hand across, a surface that makes noise. It can even be from your own voice. But what it is it's a louder section of noise that's not as consistent as like white noise per se. They tend to be louder, the transformative EVPs, because they match the frequency and the duration of whatever noise it's using to manipulate to make the voice. What you'll hear next is the actual recording of the transformative EVP. Now, I'm not going to just give you the EVP. I'm going to put everything in context. So you'll hear me and another investigator inside of the area talking and what led up to the EVP. You'll hear two different recordings. Well, I guess I should say you'll hear two recordings captured by two different classifications of digital recorders. You'll hear one from a Sony SX, which is a higher end recorder, and then you'll hear the other from a Sony P520, which is a lower end recorder. The actual transformative portion of the audio noise is going to occur on the Sony P520. I'll explain why the SX doesn't capture the EVP itself, it just captures the audio, and why the Sony P520, the older recorder, is the one that actually captures the EVP, and I'll explain that later. Here is the examples.
I don't know if it was dust or not, but I just caught something flying from you.
Well, I definitely feel like
there's something up here.
I definitely feel like they.
I don't know if it was dust or not, but I just caught something flying from you.
Well, I definitely feel like
there's something up here.
I definitely feel like they.
I don't know if it was dust or not, but I just caught something flying from you.
Well, definitely feel like
there's something up here.
I definitely feel like they like.
I don't know if it was dust or not, but I just caught something flying from you.
Well, definitely feel like
there's something up here.
I definitely feel like they like.
So that was the transformative EVP. You saw over the SX that you just got the noise, and then over the 520 you actually picked up the EVP saying something like "prove it." The cool part here that me and this investigator talk about from time to time is that she says something to the like of, "I don't know what it was, but I just saw something fly off of you." And right after you get the transformative EVP through the 520 saying "prove it." Now, if you remember the history of the place, this place is, I'm telling you, man, this place is full of voices. I've heard so many intelligent EVPs come from here. Not only the one of the southern woman, but just some of the ones I get, and just some of the examples I showed you in the beginning. So it makes all the sense in the world that we, in this situation, have this intelligent spirit using any audio that he can to amplify what he needs to say, to take it from whatever place he's at, to get it over to us by using things that are audible to us in our dimension, to say, "Prove it. You know, I'm watching you. Yeah, something did fly. Prove it." And this is just great, because not only do we have the transformative EVP, we actually have intelligent interaction between investigators and spirit. And to me, that's what it's all about. So in the comparison of the Sony SX and the Sony P520, and why the P520 captured the transformative EVP portion, and you heard it say "prove it," and why the SX sort of just captured some nasally noise, I don't know for sure what it was. You have to sit here and you have to look at these graphs, and you can see that the Sony SX seems to capture a higher frequency band than the Sony P520, and that's great. It captures a very clear frequency band, but when you go back and you look at the lower frequencies where these kind of things occur, and where the manipulation of voices happen in the EVP phenomena, or electronic voice phenomena, you can see that the Sony P520 amplifies these lower lengths, these lower frequency band waves. And it's important that you see that, because the SX gives you a very clear overall frequency bandwidth. You know, sound quality output's great, but it's buffering out these lower end frequencies that you need to hear these kind of things. The Sony P520, all these old Olympus recorders, they don't buffer that out. And you might think with the higher end recorders, you can turn off the noise reduction and things like that, but the noise reduction is an added function. But overall, the higher end recorders will cut out these lower frequencies, and you just don't pick up these things. And in this case, you can see that the P520 not only amplifies these lower frequencies, but you get more of a sensitive response to these lower frequencies, and it boosts them. So not only are you getting these lower frequencies, you're also getting very detailed recordings at these lower bandwidths. Now, if you're nervous about this recorder giving you false positives, you can always go in and mess with the settings. You can change it to standard recording. You can change it to high-end recording. You can even change the sensitivity. That's all up to you. But the use of this lower-end recorder in this dual recording format allowed me to capture the phenomenon and show that there is a transition in the voice or in the audible sound into an electronic voice phenomenon. So just take a second and check that out. I think it's very interesting. I've talked about this before, and I'll make a video at some point if you're interested and talk about it more.